Hi, this short video is going to demonstrate the use of the new MasterFrame load case generator for the rapid generation of your loading cases. So if we go into loads and into load cases, you will see historically you would create the load factors for your cases. Now, we're not going to add more cases this way. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my design and make sure I'm using the Eurocode and UK National Annex, and then I'm going to go into loads, load cases. Then I'm going to go into loads and win panel loading, and I'm going to set my win directions, and this is important. If I set just the one win direction, I will only get one win direction set. It doesn't matter if I have the wind analysis or not program, if I've just set to have one wind direction used. So going in then to loading cases, and I select this option to edit loading cases. Okay, this is the default, and what we have are some default loading cases. If we look here, we can see we've dead plus live, and in the dead plus live we're going to use any D0 and D1 load groups plus our L1s. We're also going to do ultimate and service, and we will do it to both 610A and B, and we'll also add in the equivalent horizontal notional forces, but only as per the wind analysis, which means only the W1, the zero direction, because the notional load always goes in the same direction as the wind. Live load only is serviceability only. Dead load is service. Dead plus live plus wind is D1 and D0, L1, and then W all. And they are set both, in my case, as leading loads. And again, serviceability and ultimate, 610A and B, W, internal and external. So we're going to do the combinations. We get the W1, the P1 and the S1, and also the equivalent horizontal forces. And then finally the dead plus wind, which is going to be ultimate and service to 610A and B, and again dead plus live plus pressure. Now if we look carefully here, the dead is favorable, so that you're going to get the minimum dead. Here you're going to see that you have leading loads identified as wind and live, and by identifying these two as leading, we can then have different permutations of those. So let us go and include the file name, and you can say to only include the load groups that were used, such as if you never use D0, don't include it in the loading combinations. That's useful but dangerous, because if you go back and add in more load groups at a later stage, they'll not be included unless you come back and regenerate. Now, you have three options. You can add to the existing, so I get what I'm generating plus my one case. I can update all the existing, or I can replace the existing. So the updating finds older versions and replace them with the new versions, and then add in the new ones as well. The most important to me is the replace. So replace, and I now have 13 loading cases. So if I look at these, I have the two ultimates with dead and live, I have the service, and I then have the dead plus live with the equivalent horizontal force, live only and dead only. And then when we come to the dead plus live, you'll see dead plus live plus wind, you will see that we have the dominant being the wind, or the dominant being the live. And then down to dead plus wind, you will see we have the dead being the minimum and the wind being the maximum, and then down to the serviceability. So very, very powerful, very, very useful. So if I was to go back to my loads, wind panel generation, and ask it to include all 4 of the principal directions, and then go in to loading cases, edit. It'll now create a lot more loading cases. So if I look at the dead plus live plus wind, leading, and then the dead and wind only, favorable, and we will have all these permutations, and I go and I say replace. We now have 37 loading cases because we've got the W1s, the W2s, the W3s, the W4s, the W5s, and then repeats for the alternate versions of those, and then the serviceability as well, obviously, of that is the dead plus wind. Now, you can come into this at any stage and you can create your own. So I could take this dead plus live plus wind and I could say copy that. So I now have another copy, dead plus live plus wind, where we're actually saying that the live is favorable, so we want to take it with the minimum live and add that in as a separate permutation. And I could then go and I could say save that as my default, or save it as a template to pull in at a later stage, which is again a very flexible tool to have in the loading cases. So what I'm going to do is go to replace, and I now see that I have a few more loading cases because I have the doubling up of those additional cases, because it said dead plus live plus wind copy, but with the minimum on the live load each time. So very, very useful, powerful and smart. This can even allow you to go in and pull in a template set. In my case, I have a set I've set up which includes D1 and D2 max, D1 and D2 max min max, and D1 and D2 max min or min max min, and that's very useful for concrete frames. And you can then come along and replace everything with those, and you get all those. Obviously in our case we also ask for the wind analysis to be included, so we're getting a lot of additional loading cases in that respect. Naturally you do have the facility, if it was a concrete frame, to say, well, actually I don't need my wind, but I want these, and I don't need that because I just want my basics. And you could also come along and say, well, let's just tidy this up and delete those. So you're just left with your standard permutations, and we're going to add in no equivalent forces, and we should end up just with the basic loading cases in the different directions, ultimate and serviceability. So we have 2 for each plus the serviceability. So I'm going to set this back to the default, and I'm going to go to tools and reset the MasterFrame default, and in the MasterFrame default I'm going to turn off dead only. I don't use it, and the dead plus live plus wind, I'm going to say which are these 2 are both leading, so I'll get 2 permutations, and then the wind, that's favorable, and there only is the live, or sorry, the wind is the variable. So, and I just say replace all, and I'm back to where I was. So that is how flexible and easy it is to handle your loading cases in MasterFrame.